Joining me now, another former Trump aide, Sarah Matthews. Sarah was White House Deputy Press Secretary to Donald Trump and resigned on January 6, 2021. Sarah, welcome. I'm excited to speak with you. Uncomfortably, let's start with those groping allegations, because I know that you worked with Cassidy Hutchinson during your time at the White House. Did she ever tell you about any encounters with Rudy Giuliani, and did you ever have any interactions with him?
I did not have any interactions with Rudy Giuliani while I was at the White House, but as you mentioned, Cassidy and I were at the White House together at the same time. We worked really closely together. The press team was in constant coordination with the Chief of Staff's office, and she was our go-to person whenever we needed anything from the Chief of Staff, because she was essentially Mark Meadows' right hand. But she did not confide in me about this allegation, but she was someone that, working closely with, I always knew her to be someone of good character, someone of integrity. And so I find her very credible, and I have no reason to believe that this allegation is false. And I think if you look at someone like Giuliani, I would definitely take Cassidy Hutchinson's word over a man of his character, just given the fall from grace that we've seen from him in the last several years. And this is also following a pattern where we've also seen him be accused of this before by an employee who accused him of sexual harassment and sexual assault. So quite frankly, I do believe Cassidy Hutchinson and take her word over Giuliani's any day.
And I do want to make the point that you resigned on January 6th. She alleges the incident took place on January 6th, so the timing of her having spoken to you to corroborate that may not have crossed over. But let me ask my director, Josh, to put up the statement from a Giuliani spokesperson with the question to you being this: what's your reaction to his claims about the timing of this statement? Because it says it's fair to ask Cassidy Hutchinson why she is now coming out with these allegations from 2.5 years ago as part of the marketing campaign for upcoming book release. This is a disgusting personal lie against Mayor Rudy Giuliani. So a man whose distinguished career in public service includes taking down the mafia, cleaning up New York City, and comforting the nation following September 11th. Your reaction to that timing?
I think it's really important for people to keep in mind the power dynamic that is at play here. When this alleged incident occurred, Cassidy Hutchinson was 23 years old and working at the White House. And Rudy Giuliani was then a beloved national hero. He was America's mayor. And so I think to come forward with an allegation of that nature is really scary for anyone to do in general, but especially in that situation, just given the skewed power dynamic. And so I do think that it is kind of gross, honestly, for anyone to question the timing of when anyone comes forward with a sexual assault or sexual harassment allegation. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of women don't come forward with these types of claims, because people start to victim shame.
You mentioned the word scary there. Cassidy Hutchinson said in an interview that she had to move out of D.C. for a few months because her legal team thought it wasn't safe for her to go home after she testified to the 1-6 committee. You also testified to that committee. Did you get similar advice, and were you concerned at all for your safety?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was working on Capitol Hill, and they offered to send Capitol Police to stand guard outside of the office that I was working in. Thankfully, my boss at the time allowed me to just work from home. But I did ultimately leave D.C. for a period of time and ended up going back home to be with family for a couple of weeks, just out of safety. And it was something that all of the witnesses had to deal with. But I think Cassidy had to deal with it to such a heightened level because of the bombshell allegations in her testimony. And so she faced a way bigger threat. And I think that that is really sad that, you know, just to come forward and speak the truth, that then she had to deal with these safety and security concerns for months on end. And so I'm happy that she is now coming forward and telling her story and is able to do so and feel safely enough to do so.
Well, many have thought that she's very courageous for having done so. But let's move on now and talk about Trump's former executive assistant, Molly Michael, whom you also know. Legal analyst Harry Litman said she would be the, quote, witness from hell for Trump. How close was the connection between Molly Michael and President Trump? And based on what you know about her, would she potentially flip on him?
So Molly Michael was a longtime aide to the former president. She began working at the White House in 2018, and her desk where she sat was directly outside of the Oval Office in an area we call Outer Oval. And so anyone who was walking into the Oval Office to meet with the former president would have walked by her desk, and he relied on her. She was kind of at his beck and call anytime he wanted to get a message to anyone or schedule a phone call or a meeting. She would have been in charge of that. And this is someone who he would have known on a personal level. He would have known her by name and had close interactions with her. We've often seen where anytime people come forward to tell the truth about the Trump presidency, he dismisses them and says that, he didn't know them or doesn't recognize them, or they were just a coffee boy, and he tries to downplay their role in the White House. That happened to myself and Cassidy Hutchinson. It would be really hard for Trump and his allies to do the same with Molly Michael, just given the proximity that she had to the president, being one of his personal aides and following him down to Mar-a-Lago post-presidency. So I think that if I were the Trump team, they know that she is a very credible witness and that this is someone who would have had very close access on the inside, and they are probably worried if she will flip. I do not know her well enough to know if she is going to flip on him, but it seems, just based on the reporting that we've seen and what she told investigators, that she was very uncomfortable with his unwillingness to cooperate in the classified documents investigation and with the National Archives. And so I think there is a high likelihood of it.
So it seems like Harry Litman's assessment of potential testimony might actually ring true. ABC News has reported that Molly told investigators that Donald Trump repeatedly wrote to-do lists for her, but did so on the back of classified documents. Do you think this is plausible? I'm curious if you ever got jotted down notes from the former president.
I did get jotted down notes from the former president, but not on classified material. When he would give our press team any kind of jotted down notes, it was usually on statements that we would write for him or draft tweets, or sometimes we would print out positive news articles and tweets for him to see if he was in a bad mood. And if he liked the tweet or the article, he would write a thank you note and ask us to deliver it to the author of said tweet or article. So he did constantly jot down notes. So I think that is very believable. And I think we've seen, too, just a recklessness from him in his handling of classified material. That's been very well documented in other cases. And so I think that it is very believable that he would write down these kinds of notes for Molly on classified material and kind of treat it as a Post-it note.
As I'm sure you heard, Donald Trump refused to tell Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker what he was doing during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. But when Molly Michael was deposed during the House 1-6 committee investigation, she was more forthcoming. Let's take a look at what she said.
Tell me how you watched this all unfold. Were you in the dining room watching TV?
I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell people later at an appropriate time. Just so you understand, however.
What did you do when the Capitol was under attack, though?
Let me just tell you.
In the moment that the Capitol
Did you see the statements I made?
Do you know whether he was watching TV in the dining room when you talked to him on January 6th?
It's my understanding he was watching television.
Curious why Donald Trump would not say what he was doing. Do you know, Sarah, what he was doing? Molly said it's her understanding he was watching TV.
Yeah, from what I had heard, I did not have any personal interactions with him that day, but talked with folks who were inside the dining room with him just off of the Oval Office. And it was true that he had the TV on and was watching the events at the Capitol unfold and watching our Capitol under attack with a group of advisors around him, begging and pleading with him to send out any sort of tweet and to tell these people to leave the Capitol, to condemn the violence. And he only sent out a couple of tweets, reluctantly so, after the begging and pleading of his daughter, Ivanka Trump, which is something I testified to when I testified before the January 6th committee. But then he also, sent out that infamous video, but that took place 3 hours after the Capitol attack started. And so he did, I guess, in a way, act, as he mentioned in that interview with Meet the Press, but he only did so reluctantly and hours after the attack began. And so, and this is something he was known to do. He was known to sit and consume TV for hours on end in that dining room. And so I think based on my interactions with people who were inside that dining room with him that day, that checks out to be true. And obviously Molly Michael attested that as well.